Yeah, the model room is a work that I have been working on for, well, I guess for 20 years with my team in my studio. And it reflects very much something that for many people are less accessible, such as the life in my studio. And it reflects the fact that the process of making a work of art is often many smaller steps. So I think there's two things that are interesting. One is to understand, to connect thinking or an idea to doing or to action, or to connect the two. There is like an infinite amount of small choices, right? You choose colors, scale, materials, and every little step often involves a model. And interestingly, we often think that it is the action at the end of these choices that is the creative part, or that has the creative impact on the world. But the truth is, I think that the life in the studio, or the making of model, is as much a reality machine as the final outcome. So creativity is not in the model making, but in the consequences that making that model has on the world. That's why I think the model room is so interesting, because I think it is vibrantly connected to a lot of other questions. And this is the other thing that I think is interesting about it. A lot of the models represents research that very often takes its point of departure from questions about algebraic, geometric, natural shapes, natural forms, but not just as a sort of natural scientific obsession, more because of, you know, the society in which we live, let's say the classicistic dominance of general architecture and how that influenced urban planning, for instance. That comes out of an algebraic school. It comes out of a spatial regime, you could say. So it's very interesting to see, well, you know, a lot of the anthroposophic experiments with early mathematical, with early algebraic systems that turned out to be less successful in the sort of pragmatic nature of modernity. A lot of these other experiments actually came out of ideologies in which spatial exciting experiments were also taking place. So a lot of the models actually represent, let's say ideologically speaking, marginalized spaces from throughout, well, both the past and the future, I could say. But generally speaking, it's not just formal exercises of polyeders. It's actually small celebrations of people who tried to suggest a mathematical principle that I revisited, understanding it fully or not, for sure not. But generally speaking, so the model room is also a kind of, it's a landscape of spatial experiments that has, I think, the richness of the periphery of what became our society. And that I think is incredibly, I mean, for me, that's a source of inspiration to have a little, let's say, a little museum in the museum. In Stockholm at the Moderna Museum, there's a mini museum. And the mini museum is a little museum in which one can really touch, metaphorically speaking, the spaces that did not conquer the economical robustness of the, let's say, the more functionalistic and classicistic spaces that came to govern our society.